All right, the time is 7:31, and I'll call this regular scheduled meeting of the mayor and council to order. Um, Tonight, we have our invocation. In lieu of an invocation, Councilman Howard informed us during our work session that Mayor Pro Tem Witz's stepson, Rick, passed away today. And so if we could have a moment of silence for Councilman Witz and his family. Thank you. Now for the announcements. The March 12th Board of Appeals meeting has been canceled. On March 24th, you can watch a rebroadcast of this council meeting on Comcast Channel 25 at 6:30 p.m. March 25th will be our next regular scheduled council meeting. We'll have a work session at 6:30 p.m. in the conference room and a 7:30 p.m. meeting here in council chambers. March 26th, we'll have a planning commission meeting, a 7 p.m. work session, and a 7:30 p.m. meeting here at City Hall. Now for our pledge to the flag, we have with us the Snellville Middle School Junior Leadership Corps. If you'll come forward and lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order, arms. Left, face. Forward, march.
Go just a little out. We have also for the color guard tonight, Resolution 2013-05, Snellville Middle School Junior Leadership Corps. Whereas the Gwinnett County Board of Education designated the South Gwinnett cluster to be the second cluster in the county to offer the Junior Leadership Corps to middle school students. And whereas the Junior Leadership Corps' mission is to instill the value of citizenship, leadership, and community service in order to have a long-term effect on our society. And whereas retired Army Sergeant Edward Parkins was selected to develop the program at Snellville Middle School. And whereas beginning with 15 students, Sergeant Parkins has grown the program in his first 6 months to its current strength of 124 cadets. And whereas Snellville Middle School Junior Leadership Corps recently competed in its first Spring Raider competition against 3 other corps in Gwinnett County and came in first place. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Snellville, Georgia, where everybody's proud to be somebody, that the Snellville Middle School Junior Leadership Corps, under the leadership of Sergeant Parkins, has shown the highest level of excellence and commitment and has set the standard for all cadets to follow in the Junior Leadership Program. Resolved this 11th day of March 2013. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2013-05? Motion by Councilman Howard. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Savag. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That's 5 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. I'd like to come forward and accept the resolution. We also have under ceremonial matters Proclamation 2013-05, American Red Cross Month for March 2013. Whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to recognize and thank our heroes, those who volunteer, donate blood, take life-saving courses, or provide financial donations to support an organization whose mission is to help those in need. And whereas we would like to remember those who help all of us here in Snellville by giving their time to help their neighbor, and thank our heroes, our volunteers, blood donors, class takers, and financial supporters who help us assist those in need. And whereas in Snellville, the Metropolitan Atlanta chapter of the American Red Cross, which covers 13 counties, including Gwinnett County, works tirelessly with the help of 1,300 volunteers to help when disaster strikes, when someone needs life-saving blood, or the comfort of a helping hand. It provides 24-hour support to members of the military, veterans, and their families, and provides training in CPR, aquatic safety, and first aid. And whereas across the country, the American Red Cross responds to nearly 70,000 disasters a year, of those, 646 disasters happen right here in Metro Atlanta. It provides some 400,000 services to military members, veterans, and civilians, collects and distributes about 40% of the nation's blood supply, and trains more than 7 million people in first aid, water safety, and other life-saving skills every year. And whereas our community depends on the American Red Cross, which relies on donations of time, money, and blood to fulfill its humanitarian mission. Despite these challenging economic times, the American Red Cross continues to offer help and comfort to those in need. Now therefore I, Kelly D. Couts, Mayor of the City of Snellville, Georgia, do hereby proclaim March 2013 as American Red Cross Month in the City of Snellville, and along with the City Council encourage all Americans to support this organization and its noble humanitarian mission. Proclaim this 11th day of March 2011. And if Ms. Nicholson will come forward and accept this proclamation. Now for our minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for February 25th, 2013?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of February 25th, 2013 Business and Public Hearing Meeting.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. And that's 5 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The minutes stand approved. Now for our invited guests, we have Mr. Ewing with the Snellville Historical Society for a soundbite of Snellville.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, it's good to be with you again. The last time I was here, I covered the medical facilities within the city. Left you with 5 points about that presentation. First being the community doctor's office or clinic opened in 1956, 4 years after the initial group met. It took them 4 years to develop it. 26 years after the last country doctor closed his practice here. 26 years without a medical doctor within the community of Snellville. The first hospital in Snellville was initiated by a group of doctors who wanted to improve facilities locally. It opened in 1980, 24 years after the community doctor's office or clinic opened. It was and still is a private or corporately owned hospital. It's not a taxpayer-developed hospital. The new hospital, currently known as Eastside Medical Center, opened in 1994. It's 14 years after the initial hospital opened over on Nob Hill, and 38 years after the community decided they wanted a doctor's office or facility in town. It took that many years to get to where we're at now, but it's been worth it. The new hospital opened on land that had been a successful operating farm right up to very shortly before they started construction there. Mr. Clyde Williams, and later his son, Carvis Williams. And by the way, Carvis served as on the county commission. He was also president of the County Fair Association. Two of Mr. Clyde Williams' children still live within the city limits of Snellville. Two of his 3 living children still live in the city limits of Snellville. Some time ago in my presentations, I talked to you about the government, the federal government, state government, so forth. I'm going to briefly run over that tonight before we get into Snellville. The U.S. government negotiated and signed a treaty with the Creek Indians for the Creek Indian land already being within the recognized boundaries of the state of Georgia. The U.S. government granted the charter for the post office established in Mr. Sawyer's store in the late 1890s. It closed. Mr. Sawyer's that post office closed about the time Mr. Sawyer began going blind, some time before he died. It was later reestablished through the efforts of Mr. Aubrey Peters, who located it in the store that he owned at that time, the original Pate store. It's continued until this day. Now, that first picture that was up there was a picture of the U.S. Capitol in 1820, at the time that the land was taken by treaty from the Indians and distributed here in Gwinnett County. And, of course, that's our current picture. U.S. Highway 78, already a State Road 10, became part of the federal highway system shortly after the federal government began to number the selected roads throughout the United States. That's 3 key factors in which the federal government played in this community. The state government. Whoop, wrong one. There you go. That picture, by the way, is the picture of the state capitol in Millersville, Georgia. That was the state capitol at the time these events occurred, all the way up till after the Civil War. Georgia passed a law to survey and distribute the land received by treaty from the Creek Indians. The land was surveyed and distributed the state of Georgia by the 1820 land lottery in 250-acre land lots. Snellville sits in the center of land lot 20, 5th Land District. Originally drawn by Mr. Anton Piquois, an immigrant from France, from Augusta, Georgia. Don't know whether he ever came to this community or not. Can't find out anything about it. No, he lived his entire life down in Richmond County. The city, being a child of the state rather than the county, the state granted a charter for the city of Snellville, which I'll cover a little bit later. Georgia Highway 10, being previously Georgia State Road 10, follows US 78 through the Snellville community. Gwinnett County. Next one. That's the old courthouse that you can go up and still see on the square up there. The county was the local government of Snellville community until the establishment of the Snellville City Charter. Exceptions to that is the militia districts. However, some aspects of the county government has continued to be a part of Snellville city government services. These come to mind. The county school system, the county water system, the county fire department, the collection of city taxes, the voting precincts, and perhaps others. Those are just ones that haven't come to mind. So we're still certainly involved with the county government to this day. Although not a subdivision of the county, we have been through the years and are now dependent on the county for certain vital government services. Militia districts. Militia districts are somewhat similar to townships in many other states. They were named and numbered. The Snellville community was and is in Cates's militia district, number 408. Justices of the peace were elected in each district, as were bailiffs. They had limited local governing authority under the supervision of the county superior court, I believe. Among the authority was marriages, granting subpoenas for arrest, settling local disputes. If you did not report to court when so requested, the bailiff could arrest and bring you to court, and it was done. The justice of peace and bailiffs could reach out and touch you if need be. Also, the militia district was the voting precinct for that entire area, where now we have many voting precincts in that area. That was the only one. And that was a rural, of course, agricultural environment at that time. And it stayed that way until the growth of the county caught on. Now, two very important events in the community of Snellville in the year of 1923. The Snellville Consolidated School graduated its first class in 1923, and I had a presentation on that one night. It was a momentous event for the community, beginning of a long, successful education endeavor. That happened in the spring of 1923. Second, now before I go on to this, I went to the state archives and researched the documents I'm about to talk to you about. A petition was presented to the local state representatives to introduce a bill for a charter to form the city of Snellville. A natural progression, if you will, from within the community that had been known since the 1880s as Snellville, so named after Joseph Tom Snell, the first merchant in the Crossroads community. A U.S. post office known as the Snellville Post Office had already been functioning since the mid-1890s in the store of James Sawyer, the second merchant in the Snellville community. State Representative John C. Houston from Lawrenceville, and whom we know very little about, introduced a bill known as House Bill number 458 in June of 1923 into the House of Representatives to incorporate the town of Snellville. The bill passed unanimously by both the House and the Senate. So in August of 1923, the City of Snellville Charter was granted by public law, House Bill number 458, dated 20th of August, 1923. Now some of you already know that because I bet you've studied it real closely. Now, I'll not get into the details of the charter, nor will I address any prior or proposed changes to the charter. It would be inappropriate as a representative of the Historical Society to do so at this time. My mama's second son was not raised to be foolhardy. The Snellville Charter became dormant. The effective date of that occurrence is not clear. It could have been when the first mayor, Mr. Gladstone Snell, died in July 1938, or it could have been much earlier. We're seeking some sort of valid documentation. Haven't been able to find it. I once asked why this happened of an elderly gentleman who has since passed, and he stated, conflicts with local business. Merchant operations. Customers didn't like the police.
Some still don't.
Being bothered when in town. Now let me just tell you just a little bit about that. Out in the Midwest, you go to a corner tavern and the whole family will gather there after work and they'll have a few beers or what have you and go home. Now, we didn't do that in the South, not when I was growing up, and I don't think they're doing it yet. We were supposed to be a dry community, primarily Baptist and Methodist, but we weren't. There was plenty of white whiskey, white lightning, bootleg, whatever you want to call it, available at any time. Some people I know very well. Some of my neighbors that sat on the front seat of the church that knew about this, and they didn't want it to change because that was their business, that was their income. It's a lot easier to sell corn in a bottle than it is in a bushel. Now, that's just the facts, folks, and that's the way it was. So when you went into town, and you were prone to do so, on the way into town, you probably stopped by your neighbors or somebody, and you got a little bottle of whiskey. Those who were prone to do so. Everybody didn't. Well, like some places I've traveled in the Midwest, you didn't drink a little and go home. Either your wife wouldn't let you bring it home. She didn't want it in the house, or for other reasons. So you didn't go home till you drank it up. Then you were in trouble. And the police would make themselves known, as they should have. So they tell me that's why the charter went dormant the first time. The businesses in town who really wanted it to begin with found out they really didn't want it when it started affecting their cash register. Now that's the story I got from an elderly gentleman. Sometime later, before World War II, again the actual date is unclear, an election was held for a city council. Mr. W.C. Brett, the second man up there, also known, Mr. William Clark Brett, also known as W.C., was elected mayor. With an outbreak of World War II, Mr. Brett got a government job and went on to support the war in different ways. And once again, the charter fell dormant. It remained dormant until after World War II. In 1947, an election was held. For city council. Whoop, you got the wrong thing up there. There we go. Okay. Best I can tell, that's the first documentation. The only documentation is when they took the initiative in the community to activate the charter again. And I highlighted the word courthouse there for a reason. The Caches District Courthouse and the city used that same building interchangeably for quite a few years after the city was established. So when they say that the city election had been held in the courthouse, it was the Caches District Courthouse. Mr. Stansel was elected mayor. He resigned. Some people said he resigned over the approval and procurement and installation of the first red light at the intersection of Highway 78 and 124. It has been said that he was adamantly against it. I don't know whether he was or not, but he was the next door neighbor to my brother-in-law, who's the next mayor here, and he was the mayor pro tem. So Mr. James Cofer, mayor pro tem, served out Mr. Stansel's term. Mr. Cofer chose not to run again for mayor the next election due to the demand of his 6-day-a-week business. Next year. The next election was successfully held, and the city has been rocking along quite effectively since. After all, the success of the city and its schools and the community environment in general was in some instances the very reason many families moved here, and other families remained here. Sometimes the city was rocking in rough, stormy sea. But you all know something about that. So you're not the first to have that experience. The city has survived each controversy, sometimes because of the city council, and sometimes in spite of the city council. I hope when someone in the future looks back at this time they find that you too are successful. 3 points. The external government, the federal, the state, the county, even now, had it not been for them, we might not be here. The city was formed in August 1923 and let go dormant twice. Reactivated twice, once late in the 1930s or early 1940s, last reactivated in 1947, 65 years ago. Soon after World War II, by Snellville's Greatest Generation. Anybody have any questions?
Questions for Mr. Ewing? Thank you, sir. I have a question. Ask it later.
I'm sorry, did you have?
I'll get it from you later.
Okay.
Thank you. Now moving on to our committee department